He's famous for fighting with bank CEOs. He have written a book, or is about to release a book. And he's also the vice president of BTCX, who's the European first crypto exchange, and also the Sweden's first. Welcome, Christoffer Geer.
Thank you. So let's see here. So the first thing I'm gonna do is explain a bit about myself and how I got here, and then I'm gonna check who you are. So let's see if this clicker thing works here. Perfect. Let's see. Oh yeah, perfect. So the first thing I would like you to do is go to menti.com and go to 333187. This is to make the speech a bit more interactive. So as I got introduced, my name is Christoffer Geer. I got here the usual way. You get into Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies by trying to smuggle money from China to Sweden. It's the classical story of having cash in China, because almost all Westerners have cash and no bank account. And when I was going to go back for the summer and change apartment, I didn't really want to store all my cash that I've received and worked up over the years in China somewhere. I was going to change apartment. I had it in a very hipster-looking travel suitcase hidden away in my apartment. But if I'm going to change apartment, I can't really leave it there. So I, naive as I was, called up my bank, SEB at the time, and told them, like, I have some cash here. Can you I want to have it in my Swedish bank account. Can you solve this for me? And I thought banks were kind of helping you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. This is my reaction as well, or their reaction when I thought that, because they were just like, well, no, we can't. I mean, you might have receipts for the cash, but we can't really. You can't just give it to us and we're going to move the money. That's not what banks do, apparently. So I got quite confused here, because I can't fly with the money. They have a limit. I can't just give it to the bank. They won't take it, even though I have receipts. So what to do? One option, give it to a random Chinese person and hope he sends it to me. Quite good, quite good. But I wanted to see if there's some other option at least. Back in 2013, there weren't that many, but I found some obscure internet money they called Bitcoin. And I guess I was going to try to buy this strange Bitcoin thing, because you could sell it in Sweden as well. And so I did. I met with the Chinese guy at the cafe. I was just sitting there waiting in the cafe, and I didn't really know what Bitcoin was or anything. And then suddenly, like a 12-year-old Chinese kid comes in and sits down next to me. And I can speak Chinese, and I could better when I lived in Shanghai. But so then we spoke about how to open download a Bitcoin wallet and move this strange money to my phone from his phone. I had no clue what I was doing, so I mean, he could just have tricked me, but I was lucky he didn't. But in the end, I have taken cash and changed it to digital money that was on my phone. And this to me was just mind-blowing, because I could just suddenly take it from cash in China, sell it in Sweden, and I have it in my bank account all within like 3 hours. If I talked to the bank, even if they would have let me transfer money and stuff, that would have taken, well, first of all, bank days, whatever that is. The blockchain doesn't care about bank days. But they wouldn't even help me. So suddenly I found some strange technology no one was talking about that helped me solve a concrete problem. So since then, I just dived into this industry. I quit my job in China and started working at crypto-related companies, because you get really passionate when you find this type of technology that actually solves a solution. So now I'm here from China, standing on this stage here, and that's a bit about me. The next step is to find out more about you, like what's the audience I'm talking to. So if you go here on your phone to Mentimeter, and you put in 33, 31, 87, I'm going to check some questions here to see who are you. So the questions are, or yeah, you can start by filling them in if it works. We're starting here. And this is going to make a little shape showing the average user. Who are you? For example, how many years have you been in crypto? Number of cryptocurrencies in your portfolio? Books you've read on the topic? Transactions, or times per day you check the price. That's an important one. And times per year you use cryptocurrencies. In general, I'm hoping that this will grow with time, but now in the beginning, since we're really early into this industry, this is going to be quite small. So, you've been here 1.7 years, so you're still noobs. Good. You've read 1.3 books on the topic, which is really confusing, because who reads books on the topic? We have YouTube. You have 2.1 cryptocurrencies in your portfolio. That's more than most. So I guess you have Bitcoin, you have Ether, and some crazy bastards have like IOTA and Monero and just everything in their portfolio. So they're pushing this up quite a lot, I guess. You check the price 2.2 times per year or per day. That's way too low. I mean, you at least in a while you're gonna start being like us here. It's like the first thing you do in the morning. Like before, it's just the first thing you check the price. Really unhealthy and really rewarding. And you use cryptocurrencies 1.7 times a year. That's a lot, because you actually not storing cryptocurrencies, holding value. Actually using probably means that maybe like 2 people of you here have been to the dark markets, darknet. You don't have to raise your hand who, but interesting. So the goal here, let's see here. I'm gonna go through a bit about the technology, the principles, like how do you store it, how do you get it? Quite basic things that touch on most cryptocurrencies, touch on blockchain technology, not Bitcoin per se. And how does this function as an investment as well? So the technology. It's actually quite simple. Blockchain is a database. Not super interesting. If this was called, if this company was called Stockholm Database, they would not get money, educations, workshops, events, or a lot of advisory to do. But if you name it blockchain, suddenly it's way more interesting. But what does this solve? We had databases for a long time. What problem have we actually managed to solve now with the database? And what's different from a blockchain and a database is that in a database, a digital file can't really be unique. Whereas in a blockchain, suddenly it can. To take an example, if I send you an email, I can't really be sure that you don't forward that to 2 other people, and you can't be sure that I keep the email. I can promise you to delete it, but that makes no sense. This is an email. But with the blockchain, suddenly we have files that are unique. And with this revolution, we can actually add things to files now, like prescribe them value. So suddenly, with blockchain technology, we have digital files that can represent value that I can send to you. You know that I don't have the file still. And I know that you can send it to 1 other person, for example, but you can't send it to 2 people. So the principles behind this. How does this, what's the general themes here? In general, you could say that since blockchain is just a database, and we've had databases for a long time, there must be something else, and there is. What's different is that we now have a different type of incentive structure than we had before. So a blockchain is a database plus smart incentive structures. If you take Bitcoin as an example, if I have a database and I send you a file, you can copy it. Why the blockchain can't do that in Bitcoin's case is because it's using something called proof of work. What this is, and this is a bit too detailed to go, or it's a bit too complicated to go into detail in this type of presentation, but what this is just a function to replace a bank, for example, with anyone. Anyone and everyone can just be part of verifying the network, making sure that the file I sent you isn't sent to anyone else. Where we before trust the bank to do that, we can now trust the whole network. And if we all can trust each other by verifying everything on our own, suddenly we have money that are purely digital. It doesn't sound much, but it's truly revolutionary. And I'm going to show why. First of all, this type of technology is meant to be open. It's here for everyone to use and everyone to take part in. And I'm quite sure that blockchain technologies such as Bitcoin or Ethereum, open blockchains, are here to stay. And I'm quite sure, because we've seen this transformation before happen with a technology that we all use today, but where the open won over the closed versions. And that was the internet. Because the internet is an open network to transfer information between each other. The blockchain does the same, but for transfer of value. When the internet came, it was terrible. It's horrible. You couldn't send an email, you couldn't upload pictures, no cat pictures, nothing. So what did companies do? They built closed versions that were way better than the internet. Closed versions that were faster, more secure, easier to use, had a better marketing team. The internet didn't even have a marketing team. On the closed internet, you could be sure that you could access the cat pictures. You could be sure that your kids could be online. There was no bad things on the closed internets, no porn, nothing. So you could be sure that that was a safe place to put your kids' attention, for example. Whereas the open internet, you could get all the cat pictures, but also all the porn, which was not very desired. But over time, what happened was that the open internet had all the attention, all the interest. So all the innovation happened on the open internet. On the open internet. And the closed internet, we know them as intranets, didn't receive all the innovation because it didn't pass the board and no one was very interested in developing them. So today, we all use the open, or we all except like 3 people here, 3 poor bastards who have to use the company intranet to access stuff, and they really hate it. But the rest of us happily use the open internet today, because the open has more attention, has more innovation, and in the long run becomes the better and safer and faster way to use things. The blockchain is going to do exactly the same transformation, in my opinion. But instead of transferring information like the internet did, this is the open network for transferring value. So we see today companies building their own blockchains, closed, safe, secure. And we see Bitcoin and Ether and stuff being open, getting hacked from right to left, just being terrible. User interface is just horrible. No one can use them. But in my opinion, we're going to see exactly the same transformation here. We're going to see Bitcoin, for example, becoming the dominant way to transfer value because it's going to accept all types of innovation. It doesn't sound much to some, but to store value as easily as you store information is truly revolutionary. If I were to tell you that I've managed to store information on a piece of paper, you wouldn't be very surprised. We've stored information on papers for a long time. However, if I suddenly said that I can now, for the first time, store value on a piece of paper, not that this paper has some information that leads to value somewhere else, or something like this. No, this paper just has information or value on it. That is truly revolutionary. You can start to store value in a poem, in a tattoo, whatever you feel like. And you don't have to trust any third party to hold the value for you. It's just there. The same thing goes for sending value. Before, you had to wait for the bank to accept these bank days and be open and stuff. But now, you can, thanks to blockchain technology, send value as easy as you send an email, an SMS, where you can use smoke signals, you can do whatever you want, as long as the information just gets sent. So how do you store this stuff? This is, in my opinion, the absolutely most important slide, and I'm going to tell you why. When I started, I think Ethereum, I found Ethereum a bit interesting. I was going to partake in their ICO. It was the first ICO. I took 2,000 kroner, and I bought some Ether. Then I forgot about it, but I bought it. 2,000 kroner back then gave me 1,000 Ether. That's nice. Anyone knows what that would be today? $1 million. Yeah, $1 million. That would be a good increase on 2,000 kroner, I feel. However, I didn't really remember what I did with that information, with that file or that thing I should have kept. So I put it somewhere. I encrypted it, I remember. But I don't know with what password I encrypted it, and I don't know where I put the file. So I have, today, lost $1 million because I wasn't very detail-oriented, and for every day that goes, I've lost more and more money because Ether just keeps going up. So the first thing you do if you're interested in this stuff, learn how to store it. God damn it. I mean, this is the most important slide of all. Because you can store it on your computer. You can't store it in a bank, because the bank, for some reason, won't help you with that. Also strange. They're the best, like the experts of storing and sending value, but they're not touching cryptocurrencies. But learn how to store it, because you can keep it on your phone or on your computer, but if you do, keep about as much as you would in your pocket or in your wallet, because you're gonna get hacked, or you're gonna forget it, and it's gonna disappear. Luckily, some smart people have solved this and made like a little bank dosa for you to use instead. These little smart things are called hardware wallets. And it's just like your bank dosa. Just, you have the bitcoins there, and they manage the keys and everything. It's not your computer, so no one can just hack you and take it. They have to take it physically. So suddenly we're starting to get a bit more control. And I wish these existed when I bought my Ether, because then I might have kept them. But storing and sending value, we've done also for a long time. And that's not something new. However, the blockchain does provide a new type of value storage. For example, you can, with the blockchain, build a setup where you, together with someone else, stores value. So, for example, I can, together with my wife, put up a multi-signature setup. This is also a bit complicated, but that means that I have to use both keys to access the value or send the value. So she knows I can't take the money, buy a Lambo and drive away, and I know she can do the same, which is good. However, if she loses the key, then we're kind of, yeah, then the money's gone. So you probably shouldn't use a 2 of 2 multisig. You should use something like a 2 of 3 and put the key with the lawyer or something like that. This sounds too technical, so therefore I'm going to explain a little thing I did that made this more understandable, which is that I wrote a poem to a friend's kid who was just born, and it was an 18-year-old, like an 18-year birthday gift from me. So I wrote the poem, and that became the information that stored the value. So that became my private key, as it's called. Then I could send Bitcoin to this poem, And suddenly the poem itself is all that is needed to access these bitcoins. But how do I know that the parents, when Bitcoin goes up a lot, won't just take the money and buy Lambos and drive away? Or not drive away from the kid, I guess, but yeah. Anyway, how do I know that? I know that because with the blockchain, you can do something called a time lock. So you can lock the transaction for 18 years, for example, and then I know and they know that no one can get the money for 18 years. So as long as they keep the poem, they will have Bitcoin that's 18 years from now going to arrive at their wallet. So it's quite a revolutionary technology where you don't have to trust the bank to hold the money, you just trust the blockchain. So, this as an investment, because this is usually the first time you hear all this fantastic things you can do with the blockchain. It's going to save all the water, something, tree hugger, blah, 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 but no one cares. People just usually cares about this as a technology that you can invest in and get rich and buy Lambos. So, what is this as an investment then? It's quite unique, because if you compare this to the internet, this is similar, but very different. Because the internet, if you wanted to invest in the internet, you had to invest in the companies. You couldn't invest in the protocol itself. The developers of the internet protocol did not have Lambos. That's for sure. But Facebook and Google and these people, they most certainly do. Because on the internet, applications on top is where the value is. For a value storing and value sending protocol, this is different. Suddenly, if you take the blockchain, the protocol is where the value is. Not the applications on top, but the protocol itself is that what stores value, sends value, and what is value. Bitcoin, for example, if you buy 21 Bitcoins, you own 1/1,000,000th of all the Bitcoins. And that would be like owning 1/1,000,000th of the internet. Not the internet company something, but the real internet. And your shares would be needed to be used to send emails back and forth and so forth. So this is, in my opinion, how you should look at blockchains from an investment perspective. Remember that they are different because the protocol is kind of the innovation here. And applications will be built on top, but the protocol itself is so powerful because storing and sending value is a very powerful function. So how do you get this stuff? It's quite simple. You get it like you get everything else. You buy it, you work for it, you just exchange cash for Bitcoin or Ether or whatever. You just get it, hold it, use it, and exchange it for fiat. So with that, if we have time, I would like to open up for questions. Oh. So what do I think about like the speculative nature or current speculative situation kind of that surrounds cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology in general? I would say 99.99% of all the cryptocurrencies out there are scams and pointless technology. And furthermore, 99.90% of the value that are currently in Bitcoin and blockchain and these type of things are just speculative value. So that will go up and it will go down. However, blockchain technology is extremely useful. Not to us, as we mentioned, because we have credit cards and banks that we can trust. But if you're trying to buy food and medicine in Venezuela and they're not allowing you to take out money or use it online because it's capital flight, suddenly being able to do so by buying Bitcoin, for example, and using Bitcoin online because no one can stop you from using it, suddenly becomes quite valuable. And that value is, to me at least, something that provides Bitcoin with an underlying value. However, currently, we're really early into this technology, so It's just primarily people trying to get rich. I might be a bit of a Bitcoin maximalist. I might be Sweden's most Bitcoin maximalist, I think. Because, in my opinion, what we have done here is created a new network for sending value, similar to the internet, but the internet is for information. We don't have two internets for sending information. Why don't we have that? Why don't we have another internet or another internet, a company building another internet that will just compete with our current internet? The reason is that the internet as a protocol is being used by millions of people and millions of companies every day. They have invested a huge amount of money into this protocol, and no one wants to change it. In my opinion, we're building the same thing, but for the transfer of value. So we're going to have a protocol that's going to become the protocol for us to use. We don't need 1,000 protocols for sending value. We just need one that functions. Because Bitcoin, for example, can send as much value as we want. The value of Bitcoin can just increase if you measure it in bananas or dollars or whatever you want to measure it in. So I think that Bitcoin has gone so far in its technical development, so far in the mind share of people, so far in mind share of developers, and so far in use, that Bitcoin is the only thing that really matters. And everything else is crap.
Yeah, we have to mention that we discussed this the whole trip. And these are big.
But exactly, so, and the consequence is usually that I get on stage and then I never get invited back again. Because it's not very, you can't really sell that. But I think, I mean, we're building something revolutionary here, and you just have to think what's revolutionary about this technology, and it is not that we can send a lot of transactions or transactions fast. It is that it's decentralized, it's neutral, it's just here for everyone to use. So a company can't just come and create another network that's here for everyone to use, because that company can get shut down and so forth. Perhaps, but that would more be to say that Coinbase would be the Alta Vista story compared to local bitcoins or something like that. This is more like saying, shouldn't the internet be replaced by a better internet? Not shouldn't the company on top of the internet be replaced by a better company? Because that's just replacing protocols or applications. The protocol itself is more like comparing the internet, not comparing the application on top of the internet, which Alta Vista kind of was, in my opinion.
You mentioned before that the biggest value of the internet was in the application, and therefore the biggest competitiveness should be there. But shouldn't that mean that the biggest competitiveness should be the protocol, since that's the biggest value factor?
It should, and the biggest competition is currently in the protocols. No one wants to build on top of Bitcoin and build something that might give you $100,000 a year if you have a really good business model. What you do is you create your own new dreamy ICO, which is going to revolutionize the way we send water over something internet, tree huggers. And then you take, you just need $100,000 because you take $25,000, give it to a mathematician that signs your white paper and says it's fantastic, $25 to a lawyer that says, no, this person is not liable for blah, 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 blah. And then you take $50,000 for marketing, ask for $100 million, and then you lose the money, and then you retire. So yes, that's really competitive right now. People want to build a protocol. And it's going to continue like that, I think, for quite a long time, unfortunately. In the end, though, I think humanity is going to choose what's the best for them, like in use. Like, I'm just going to choose the thing that is easiest for me to use. People are just going to choose the thing that is the most stable if they're looking for stability. And all of that, in my opinion, is going to come back to the thing with the best technology. And at least for me, that is Bitcoin.
I've read a lot of articles about the environmental issues
Mm.
Do you know if there's any way to avoid this?
So the question is the environmental aspects of Bitcoin, because proof of work is really, it uses a lot of energy. And yes, there are things, a lot of people are working on solutions to solve this. Proof of stake is another popular version. So far we haven't seen that proof of stake actually works to store a lot of value. So far you just need to use energy outside of the system to make sure that you store value in it, like proof of work does. My personal opinion is that proof of work is the most efficient way to use energy in the entire world, because what you get is just pure value. There's no middlemen, there's nothing in between. So every krona that is going to be spent for proof of work is for humanity a valuable krona, because we're building something that just provides a million times more value, since it's open and free for everyone to use. So I think yes, the electricity cost will increase, but for me that's just a way to secure the network and make it more secure, and make sure that Bitcoin or some open network continues to be open and neutral. So I think it's very important, and it's very good. Very true, very true. Yeah. Absolutely. So thank you.